or throughout their adult lives. Other options target all Social Security recipients. We have some options that provide for across-the-board benefit increases and provide cost estimates for those. This chart actually illustrates the kinds of options that we talked about and shows for each the cost as a percentage of taxable payroll, because this is kind of the rubric for how we assess Social Security's long-range finances. Next question, how are we going to pay for what we want? Well, that is the critical question, and for that we turn to the next slide. The new report has a total of, I think, 17 ways to raise revenue and 12 ways to reduce future benefits, all in the interest of trying to achieve some measure of solvency. We'll talk about a few of those revenue-raising options here. One would raise that 6.2% tax rate on both workers and employers to 7.2%, not now, because we don't need the money now. Moreover, we're in a recession now. This is not the time to be talking about tax increases. But it would schedule a rate increase, say, out in 2022, when the shortfall is getting a little closer. And then it would schedule another 1 percentage point increase each for workers and employers, to up to 8.2%, but in 2052, 30 years after that. Again, we're talking about way out in the future, where under the long-range projections, wages are going to be higher because workers are expected to enjoy real wage increases. So this is not about a tax increase now. It's an action taken now to schedule in the future what might be needed. A second approach would have a very, very gradual tax. That change, by the way, is more than enough. The one I just mentioned, is more than enough to close the 2 percentage point deficit. Another option would be a much more gradual rate increase, 1/20th of 1% each for workers and employers. Start in 2015 when it's expected the economy will be a bit stronger. Phase it in a little bit each year over 20 years. That change is projected to cover about 70% of the long-range deficit. There are many options for lifting the cap on earnings subject to Social Security taxes. We show two on this chart. One which would lift the cap altogether, but not count the earnings above that cap toward Social Security benefits. That would raise a lot of money from real high-income people and give them nothing for it. And it's more than enough to solve the long-term shortfall. Another kind of change that's more consistent with kind of historical precedent with Social Security would gradually lift that cap until it covers 90% of all wages, which historically the cap has been in the past, the last time Congress adjusted it. And that would cover about 1/4 of the long-range deficit. And there are many options in between on that kind of change. Another change would change the treatment of salary reduction plans. These are variations on 401k plans, but in brief, 401k plans are exempt from income taxes, but they are subject to Social Security and Medicare taxes. That is the money you put into it for both employers and employees. That is, the employee's contribution is subject to both employee and employer payroll taxes. But these other kinds of salary reduction plans are exempt from both income taxes and payroll taxes. This plan would subject them to payroll taxes so that workers' earnings are, in fact, taxed for Social Security and Medicare and counted toward Social Security benefits. Finally, there are other options for using more progressive taxes to pay for part of Social Security. One such option would dedicate the estate tax to Social Security at its 2009 levels out into the future. Another would levy a new tax on high-income households and dedicate that money to Social Security. And we have the example of a 5% tax on household incomes above $250,000 for couples, or half that for individuals. As I said, there are many options also for lowering benefits. We include one on our illustrative cases here, and that would be to gradually lower the spouse benefit for elderly couples. This would not it would not reduce benefits for widowed spouses, but it would gradually lower the one for spouses in which couples are together. Then, okay, the next slide gives us our benefit package. If we think about, okay, what would it cost if you wanted to do 4 benefit improvements illustrated here and close the deficit? Well, you would need to close the 2 percentage point deficit plus finance the additional improvements. So that's 2.69% of taxable payroll. Then we look at ways to finance that. And this slide illustrates one of many possible plans to pay for the system. It includes the gradual increase in the Social Security tax rate, not the two-step one that solves the whole problem, but the gradual one that starts in 2015 and goes over 20 years. It gradually lifts the tax cap. It covers these salary reduction plans to treat them like 401ks. It dedicates the estate tax to Social Security. And it gradually lowers the spouse benefit. These changes together add up to a little more than what is enough, according to these rough estimates to pay for both closing the solvency problem and improving the adequacy of benefits. And these, in general, these improvements in the adequacy of benefits are assumed to take effect in 2010. So where do we end up with this? We end up with the realization that we have many choices to fix Social Security for the long term. We don't need more money now. We need money out in the future. There are ways to combine adequacy and solvency to really give policymakers some real choices that comport with what it sounds like the American people want, and which comport with it looks like the American people might need. I would also like to just add, in truth in packaging, all of our estimates came from the Office of the Actuary, and they are quick to point out to us that adding up individual options, the options are costed out one at a time. When you put them together in a package, the costs and the combined impact could be a little bit different. This is a rough approximation. It's a way to begin to think about putting together packages. It's not the final word by any means. But thank you.